In the quiet hills of Esiagu, a town nestled deep in Enugu State, Nigeria, there stood a power native doctor. His name was Chief Esiani. They called him Ogbuefi Esiani the Great, a celebrated native doctor, herbalist, spiritualist, and, as some said under their breath, a man with powers that came from beyond the mortal world. He was always seen in fine Isiagu attire, embroidered with lion heads, his red cap resting regally on his head, a horsetail whisk in one hand. He lived in a mansion, has fleet of luxury cars, parked in his compound. Whenever he passed through the market square, people either bowed or stepped aside. Yet, in the deepest corners of their hearts, many asked the same question. What exactly does Esiani do? Is he just a native doctor? Stories floated. They said he healed the barren, gave men wealth, solved court cases without lawyers. Some even claimed he could command snakes and spirits. Pilgrims came from as far as Anambra and Ebonyi. His compound became a shrine of sorts. People queued for hours, bringing goats, yam, and fat brown envelopes, just for a chance to see him. But none of them saw what lay behind the splendor. Behind the mansion, behind the towering white walls, hidden by mango trees and thick shrubs, was a pit, covered most times with wood and tarpaulin. No one outside the compound ever saw it, but those who worked closely with him, his guards, his houseboys, his boys, they knew. That pit was not just for burning trash. It was a graveyard. It held secrets. Secrets of missing villagers. Secrets of people who went to Esiani for help, but never returned. Of girls last seen fetching water. Of women who were pregnant and suddenly vanished. Their bodies, lifeless, twisted, drained, were dumped there after being used for rituals. Chief Esiani had men. Young, ruthless, loyal. They did his bidding. Kidnapping, threatening, disposing. To them, he was a god. He paid them well. They didn't ask questions. Some said they too had tasted blood money, and their silence was the price of their loyalty. Still, rumors spread. Some villagers whispered of crying voices at night. Others claimed to have seen strange figures dragging sacks into the compound. A few said they once saw Esiani dressed in full traditional regalia at midnight, chanting by the pit, flames surrounding him. But fear is a powerful silencer. No one ever confronted him. The police, bought, the local leaders, his friends, even the churches avoided calling his name during sermons. He had built the community hall. He sponsored widows. He donated at funerals. So they looked the other way. Even his wife, a quiet, light-skinned woman, always wearing gold bangles, never asked where the wealth came from. She lived like a queen, her 2 children schooling abroad, only returning during festive seasons, with shopping bags and accents. Yes, everyone wanted to be like Esiani, but no one truly knew what he did in the shadows. Until one day, a scream pierced the silence. A girl's voice, faint but sharp, crying from somewhere deep, from beneath the earth. A voice that would unravel everything. A voice that would bring Esiani's empire to its knees. The sun burned hot above the cassava farm that afternoon. In Esiagu, dry wind swept across the brown ridges, carrying the scent of dust, earth, and sweat. Chidinma, a 12-year-old girl with innocent eyes and a gap-toothed smile, worked beside her father, Okonkwo, pulling cassava roots from the ground. It was hard work, but she didn't mind. She always loved spending time with her papa. Esigbonwa he said, smiling. You are stronger than even your brothers. Chidinma giggled, brushing a lock of hair from her sweaty forehead. Her tiny hands gripped the base of a stubborn cassava stem. She tugged and wiggled it free. Around her neck hung a small, worn Catholic rosary, a gift from her late mother. She never took it off. They had filled 2 sacks already when the sound came. Motorcycles. Approaching fast. Loud. Aggressive. Okonkwo turned, shielding his eyes. 3 men on 2 bikes were riding through the footpath, heading straight for them. Something in their speed, in their faces, made his stomach churn. The motorcycles came to a halt. "Good afternoon, sir," one of them said, too politely. "We need help. Do you have a cutlass?" Okonkwo hesitated. "Yes, it's here." He reached for it slowly and handed it to them. "What for?" Before he could blink, the mood shifted. 2 of the men jumped down. One grabbed Chidinma. "Papa!" she screamed. Okonkwo lunged forward. "Leave her alone." The second man struck him across the face with the flat side of the cutlass. He crashed to the ground. "No, please!" he cried, scrambling on all 4s. Chidinma kicked and screamed, biting the man's arm. But they were strong. They threw her between them on the motorcycle, pinning her arms, muffling her screams with a dirty rag. The third man revved the engine. "Papa!" she cried again, tears and dust mixing on her face. Okonkwo ran after them, barefoot, blood streaming from his nose, stumbling through ridges. "My daughter! My daughter!" But the motorcycles vanished into the bush path. Silence. Okonkwo collapsed to his knees, wailing like a wounded animal. A passing farmer heard him and ran over. Soon, a few men gathered, but they were too late. The dust had settled. The trail was cold. "Who were they?" one man asked. "I don't know," Okonkwo sobbed. "They took my child. They took her." The village gathered by sunset. News spread like wildfire. Chidinma, the sweet girl who always sang in the church choir, was missing. A child snatched in broad daylight. It had never happened like this before. The elders called for calm. The youth wanted to storm every corner of Eziagu. But no one mentioned Ezeani, because even now, in their fury, they feared his name. Far away, behind high walls and black gates, Ezeani sat on a leopard skin chair in his inner chamber. A black candle burned beside him. Cowries lay in a dish. A red chalk mark stretched from his forehead to the tip of his nose. He was waiting. The motorcycles arrived just before nightfall. His men didn't speak much. They knew better. They dragged the tied-up girl, struggling and soaked in tears, through the compound, past the guest house, behind the mango trees, to the pit. Chidinma screamed, "Please! Where are you taking me? I want my papa." Her cries echoed in the dark. The lid of the pit creaked open. A foul stench hit her nose. She screamed again, louder this time, louder than ever before. "Jesus! Jesus! Help me! Help me!" The men shoved her in. She landed with a thud on something soft, something cold. She reached around. It was a body. Then another. Her scream tore through the silence. "No, please, somebody help me." She clutched her rosary and prayed like never before. "Hail Mary, full of grace." Her voice trembled. Above ground, Ezeani watched from his back balcony, eyes gleaming in the dark. "Tonight," he said, "the spirits will dance." But God had other plans. At the edge of the village, a group of local vigilante youth, led by Obiora, were on patrol. They had heard Okonkwo's cries earlier and were searching all nearby paths and farms. Suddenly, as they walked near Ezeani's area, one of them paused. "Shh! Wait, did you hear that?" They all stood still. A faint, distant cry. A child's voice. A girl. "Help me, E." Their blood turned cold. "Is that coming from Ezeani's side?" someone whispered. Obiora's face tightened. "We have to check. I don't care who owns the house. If a child is crying there, we must go." They turned off their torches and approached quietly, staying in the shadows. As they drew near the compound wall, the crying became clearer. Now they were certain. A child was trapped inside that compound. Obiora turned to the others. "We're going in tonight." And just like that, the night shifted. The evil that had hidden behind riches and regalia was about to face the light. Night fell heavy over Eziagu, the air thick with silence, except for the faint, desperate cries of a child. "Please, somebody help me. Papa, I'm here." Chidinma's voice echoed, cracking through the cold, moonlit darkness like the wail of a restless spirit. But it was not a spirit. It was a little girl, alive and terrified, praying into the void, with a rosary clutched tightly to her chest. Inside Eziani's compound, all was quiet on the surface. The white walls shimmered under the security lights. His luxury vehicles sat untouched in the driveway like sleeping beasts. The house was calm, too calm. But behind the house, beneath the ground, was a world of horror. Outside the gate, Obiora and his band of vigilante men stood in the shadows. They were not policemen. They had no warrant. But they had something stronger. Conviction. "She's inside," Obiora whispered. "That voice. She's crying from inside this place." Another man, Ikem, gritted his teeth. "If we leave now, she may be dead by morning." They approached the gate and knocked loudly. A guard emerged. He was tall, muscular, holding a torchlight in one hand and a Dane gun in the other. "Wetin una dey find for this place by this kind hour?" "We heard something," Obiora said firmly. "A child's voice. We need to search the compound." The guard scoffed. "This is Chief Eziani's house. Una dey mad? You no fit just waka enter here like say na motor park." Obiora stepped forward, then explained the crying coming from behind your fence. "Are there children living here?" "No be una business," the guard snapped. "Come up before I shout." Before he could finish, Ikem swung a club at him. The blow struck his arm, and the gun fell. The rest of the men rushed him, wrestled him to the ground, and tied him up with rope. "God forgive us," Obiora muttered. "But we can't turn back." They entered the compound, hearts pounding. Everything seemed normal at first. A clean yard, a trimmed hedge. Then they reached the backyard. And there, they heard her again. "Help me. I'm down here. Please don't leave me." The men began to search. One of them kicked over a large metal basin and uncovered a slab of corrugated roofing sheet, poorly placed to conceal something below. A foul, nauseating odor rose up. They exchanged terrified glances. Obiora pulled the sheet off completely. Beneath it was a heavy wooden trapdoor, chained shut, but old and rusted. "What is this?" Ikem whispered. "A well." "No," Obiora said, voice shaking. "It's a pit." Together they pried the door open with a crowbar. It groaned loudly, revealing darkness below. And then, from the depths, "Papa, help me, I'm here." Obiora dropped to his knees and shone his torch inside. The light revealed Chidinma, her face stained with tears and dirt, her tiny arms reaching up from a pile of bones, torn clothes, and decaying bodies. She wasn't alone. The pit was a graveyard. A scream tore through one of the vigilantes. "Jesus!" Below, they saw what remained of a pregnant woman whose picture had flooded social media just days ago. Her body lay twisted, eyes wide open, as if she had died screaming. A man whispered, This is not just a crime. This is evil." Obiora didn't hesitate. He climbed down slowly, coughing at the stench. When he reached Chidinma, she clung to him like a baby monkey. "I prayed, and God heard me," she sobbed. "He sent you." Obiora couldn't speak. His throat was tight. He climbed back out with her, tears running down his face. When they were safe on the ground, the other men gathered around. Chidinma collapsed in her father's arms, shaking. She's alive, Ikem whispered. God, she's alive. Obiora turned to the others. Call the police and call the press. Let the world see this. By dawn, the news had spread. The police arrived. So did journalists, activists, and half the village. People gathered outside the compound, chanting, shouting, crying. They saw the pit. They saw the bones. They saw the truth. Inside the house, Ezeani was gone. He had fled an hour before the first knock at his gate. One of his guards had warned him. His bag was already packed. His wife and children had slipped away in the middle of the night, wordless, heartless, like smoke vanishing in the wind. Only his guards remained, and now they were in handcuffs. When one officer asked the arrested guard why he never reported what he saw, the man looked up and said, "Chief said if I ever spoke, my tongue would rot." But the silence was broken now. Ezeani's kingdom had cracked open like an egg, and from its rotten core spilled the secrets he had buried for years. And yet, he was not yet caught. He was running, but not for long. The once silent streets of Eziagu were now roaring with anger, grief, and vengeance. As the sun rose over the village, it did not shine on peace. It revealed the pit, the bones, and the truth. And it revealed a betrayal too great for silence. The entire town gathered in front of Chief Ezeani's mansion, their voices raised in chants of rage. Women tied wrappers around their waists and beat their chests. Old men cried openly. Youths clenched fists. Children stood behind their mothers, confused, terrified. How could he? A woman screamed. He gave my son a scholarship. Was it with blood money? My sister disappeared 3 months ago. Another cried. I thought she went to Lagos. Her spirit has been under our nose all along. At the compound gate, the police took charge, cordoning off the area, collecting evidence, and digging deeper around the pit. What they found shook even hardened officers. Over 15 bodies, most of them barely decomposed. Men, women, at least 4 children, and a pregnant woman who had been missing for weeks, all brutally murdered. Ezeani's face was now everywhere. Radio, newspapers, television, social media. Declared wanted by the Nigerian police for multiple murders, kidnappings, and ritual activities. But the man himself? Gone. Chief Ezeani had slipped into the shadows hours before the storm hit. One of his guards, paid heavily and threatened with spiritual curses, had tipped him off just before the vigilantes broke in. Wearing plain clothes and a face cap, he had climbed into a tinted Toyota Corolla, abandoning his Lexus, gold rings, and pride behind. His wife, Adara, and their 2 teenage children had taken the other route, fleeing through a back road in the early hours, carrying passports, dollars, and a name they would never speak again. By mid-morning, the once revered mansion stood deserted, but not for long. Around noon, something shifted in the crowd. The shouting grew louder. The gate, once closed, was kicked open by angry youths, and the people of Eziagu, no longer willing to be polite, stormed the mansion. They didn't care about police tape. They didn't care about rules. They wanted justice or vengeance. Room by room, they tore through the palace Ezeani had built, pulling down golden frames, smashing glass, tearing curtains. They flipped over his lion-headed chairs, broke his altar of cowries and feathers, and set fire to the animal skins lining his private chambers. Let his gods protect his house, one of them shouted. But no gods came. The fire spread fast. First the guest house, then the garage. Flames kissed the hoods of his Lexus and his Bentley. One by one, the cars exploded. A spectacular, fiery end to his once adored collection. Women wailed louder. This is for every mother who never buried her child. By evening, the government sent a caterpillar and a demolition crew from Enugu City. There would be no rebuilding of this house. The machine roared to life, and with a single sweep, it brought down the front wall. One by one, the pillars fell. Glass shattered. The roof caved in. It took hours, but by dusk, the mansion was reduced to a pile of rubble and ash. The village stood and watched. Some clapped. Some prayed. Some simply stared, faces heavy, hearts broken. What they once admired had become what they now despised. And amid the chaos, a quiet reunion took place. Chidinma, now cleaned, fed, and wrapped in a warm cloth, stood beside her father, Okonkwo, under a mango tree near the church. He held her hand like a lifeline. She didn't speak much. Her voice was hoarse, her eyes still wide. But when she saw his face, she ran into his arms. He dropped to his knees and hugged her, sobbing, "My daughter, they didn't take you. Thank you, Jesus. They didn't take you." The priest from the local parish came out and knelt beside them, laying his hand on her head. God preserved her. Evil surrounded her, but her prayer pierced through. And the villagers, once broken by fear, found their voice again. They sang, they danced, and they mourned the ones who didn't return. Back at the police station, Ezeani's captured guard broke under questioning. "I only held the gate," he said. "I didn't kill anyone." "Who did?" the officer asked. "Chief," the guard whispered, trembling. "Chief Ezeani. He said the spirits needed them. He said the blood opens the gates of power. We were just the hands. He was the mouth." The officer stared. "Where is he now?" "I don't know," the guard said. "But he said if they ever found him, he'd rather die than be caught." But fate had other plans. For evil may run, but it cannot hide forever. And Ezeani's fall was far from over. The wind howled through the quiet night as Chief Ezeani, stripped of his title and pride, crouched in the back seat of a dusty Toyota Corolla, staring through the tinted glass like a fugitive in his own country. No more lion-headed chairs, no more followers bowing, no red cap, no Isiagu regalia, just a scared, haunted man in borrowed clothes. He hadn't slept in 36 hours. His beard, once trimmed to perfection, was now scruffy. His gold rings and chains had been sold in haste in a back alley shop in Nusuka. The buyer hadn't even bargained. Everyone already knew his face. The news was everywhere. Wanted native doctor from Eziagu, accused of ritual murder. Over 15 corpses, found in pit of horror. Billionaire witch doctor on the run. Authorities closing. His face was plastered across every bus park, border checkpoint, and social media page. Still, he had a plan. He would escape Nigeria by land. He couldn't risk flying. Every airport was on alert. But there were other ways. Bush paths, corrupt officials, old friends. If there was one thing Ezeani was good at, it was survival. He arrived in Makurdi by evening, sitting in the back of a Danfo bus. He kept his head low, pretending to be asleep. When the bus stopped for food, he bought bread and sachet water with shaking hands. At night, he checked into a dingy roadside lodge. The room stank of sweat and mildew. The bed had no sheets, but it was safe. For now, he turned on the television. A news anchor was speaking in Igbo. The community of Eziagu has been thrown into mourning following the discovery of a mass grave in the home of famed native doctor Chief Ezeani, who is now on the run. Authorities warn he may attempt to flee the country. Anyone with information on his whereabouts should contact the police. He changed the channel. Same story, different language. He turned the TV off and stared at the wall. He could still hear Chidinma's cries. That small girl, that cursed rosary, the prayers, the way she looked up from the pit, clinging to hope. She ruined everything, he muttered. No, but not her. His voice grew louder. No, it was my boys. They were careless. They didn't check if she had powers. That girl was not ordinary. She brought this. Then silence again. He reached for his small Nokia phone. He dialed a number. His wife answered. Hello? It's me. A pause. I told you never to call me again, she said coldly. Where are you? He asked. Far away. And I'll never come back. You brought this shame on us. Shibi, we were in it together. I didn't kill people, Ezeani, she snapped. You said it was animals. You lied to me. You lied to your children. He sighed. Adora, I need money. I need help. The line went dead. The next day, he made his move. A former client had given him a contact, a fixer, someone who smuggled people across the Nigeria-Cameroon border near Ikom in Cross River. The man was dangerous but efficient, and he didn't ask questions. They agreed on a fee, 2 million naira, to be paid in cash upon crossing. Ezeani sold his wristwatch and remaining valuables. He stitched some dollars into his trouser lining. The fixer gave instructions. No phone, no talking, don't look at anyone. That night they set out. They avoided main roads, took bush paths, used motorcycles, paid off small checkpoints. At every stop, Ezeani's heart pounded like a drum. Then finally, they reached the border. It was just before dawn. Fog hung low, and the trees were still. They approached the unofficial foot crossing. A small wooden plank stretched across a shallow stream. Just across it was Cameroon. Wait here, the fixer said. But before they could move, torches flashed. Stop there, don't move. Immigration officers emerged from the shadows, guns drawn. One grabbed the fixer. Another lunged at Ezeani. He tried to run, slipping on wet grass. He fell hard. A boot pinned his chest. Name? The officer barked. Ezeani looked up, breathing hard. Who? Who are you? You don't know me? The officer scoffed. He pulled out a laminated photo. This is you, right? It was the wanted poster. His face, bold and damning. You're under arrest, Chief Ezeani, for ritual murder, kidnapping, and crimes against humanity. Ezeani stopped struggling. It was over. By noon, the news broke. Chief Ezeani captured at Nigeria-Cameroon border. The billionaire native doctor finally in custody. Villagers celebrate as fugitive is caught. Back in Eziagu, church bells rang. Children danced. Women ululated. People flooded the streets. In the parish hall, Chidinma knelt with her father during Thanksgiving Mass. She didn't cry. She just held her rosary and whispered, "Thank you, Jesus." Her voice was soft, but the entire village heard it.